Hi there, greetings and salutations to you. My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz, and this is Bailey and Woods presenting Query and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network. Also, thank you because we are coming to you live from the Lou Malnati's studio. Lou Malnati's, the finest in deep dish pizza that you can find. We should also go ahead and just thank those who have been on board and made it possible for us to do this show each and every week, like Stewart Tire and Automotive down on the south side. Obviously, Love Heating and Air, who have been with us from the very beginning. WGU Indiana is a great sponsor and a great partner for us because ambition never rests. Chateau Kitchens, who are now in their 37th different project that Derek has come up with for his house because he's never satisfied, although their work is fantastic. It's so good, Derek, that from one project you move to the next, right?
Yeah, more shower pics
What's
coming
that?
up soon here.
Pictures, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Well, if Chateau does our master bath's probably due in about 4 or 5 years, so more shower pics on the way.
And if you are looking to get into a new home, Bailey and Wood, who we will talk to you about, is the place to go, BAWFG.com. Hoagies and Hops, we're going to have some lunch coming up here in just a little bit. But, Derek, this is, and let's get to it, the greatest year on the modern calendar, 1991. This is episode 91 of Query and Schultz, which means we are going to talk about nothing but things from 91. Like, for example, the Final Four that year, which was Kansas, Duke, UNLV, and North Carolina. That took place at the Hoosier Dome. 1991, the year, of course, of the Gulf War, broke out in 1991.
Okay, that's not a very happy memory.
Ice Baby was one of the top songs.
It's a very regrettable time for music.
C&C Music Factory.
Yeah, very regrettable time for
Everybody
music.
dance now.
Like I just mentioned, just a really
Humpty
regrettable
Dance.
time.
Humpty Dance, here's your chance.
Just lots of regrets from all of the music that was
And, of
released
course,
that year.
1991 was the year that North Central High School in Washington Township released yours truly, Into the World, setting me free to spread my wings with the fabulous education that was rooted within me from Washington Township Schools. Yes, those of you out there, the Panthers, that were class of 1991, were a special bond, and this show is for you. There you go, Derek. The floor is yours.
You know what I noticed about 1991, and I think this kind of happens every time a new decade comes, and maybe we're not doing this anymore because there's not a lot to separate like the 2010s from the 2020s, whereas there's a lot to separate, let's say, the 70s from the 80s.
Right.
People were really confused about how to transition from the 80s into the 90s. And if you just look back at the popular music, the fashion trends, all of that, people were just confused because there's no way that any one sane person would make the choices that were made in 1991 to wear what was worn and listen to what was listened to.
Give me an example of what was worn.
Those stonewashed tight jeans.
Nobody wore
like
tight.
Zach Morris jeans.
You didn't wear tight jeans. You pegged them.
Okay, whatever that is.
Now,
yes. Those things.
But the same thing happened when they transitioned from the 70s to the 80s because you were going from the disco era into new wave. The 90s, you were kind of going from glam rock into like grunge.
My point is, I don't think that's unique to the transitioning from the 80s to 90s, but I think that was one of the more confusing times.
It was pretty awesome.
Because the 90s sort of declared itself as like loud and colorful, more like 93, 94, 95. Like that's when it started to kind of emerge and have this identity. But 1991, it was like, you know, what are we? Are we still into this crappy hair metal crap, or are we into the grunge stuff?
Awesome.
Like, what are we going to be here moving forward as a society?
Fair enough. I loved it. Loved everything about it.
Oh, I know you loved it.
Why are you wearing? Do you have a squirrel in your T-shirt there?
Nope, just a T-shirt. It's a nice V-neck T-shirt. Got it for Father's Day.
Okay.
It was $6 at Target plus 30% off. So this is a $4 T-shirt I'm wearing, my man.
$4.20.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really do that anymore, but yeah, $4.20. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are we gonna have a show? Are we gonna like talk about sports and
it appears
have a show
as though
today?
the NBA draft is upon us, Derek.
Yes, it is.
This week. Lots of rumors circling, and we're taping this on a Monday, so who knows what happens by the time you might be watching this, folks, or listening to it. But Malcolm Brogdon and Miles Turner appear to be two centerpieces that Indiana is dangling, letting people know they are open for business if the services of either of those players are coveted. It's interesting to me, Derek, because Indiana's sitting at number 6 in the draft. They had originally what now is the 14th pick from Cleveland. Then Cleveland played their way back out of the playoffs, and so that was a lottery-protected pick. Cleveland held on to it. It seems as though Indiana was almost like they just knew that they were going to have 2 first-round picks, so they're now open to moving themselves back into that position, whether it's a player like Sohan from Baylor or Mark Williams out of Duke, a big that can kind of defend, that's athletic. This is an interesting time for the Pacers because they have some young pieces. They have the ability to turn it around pretty quickly and be good for a long time with a good, young, interesting team, but they got to get this right.
Yeah, they have to get it right. For all of the Pacers trade talk, I think if they were to make a deal, it was going to be to get one of those mid-round, late lottery, late teens,
right,
somewhere in that range sort of selections, the pick that would have been the Cleveland pick. And it's really unfortunate. The Pacers never have any draft luck, but it's really unfortunate that the Cavs took a swan dive like they did. Because for months, that looked like that was or I guess I should say for weeks, that looked like it was a guarantee.
Dive?
I have. It's scary. Nothing like a pelican dive.
Do swans fly?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they go straight down onto their prey.
Really?
Pelicans are the same way.
I don't think swans have prey, right?
They submerge.
I mean, swans eat, what do swans eat? Shrimp?
Anything that's meat, swan will eat. Yeah. I've seen a swan go after a fox.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. You know how big a swan is?
Yeah, I know they're big.
Swan's like triple the size of a fox. Fox has no chance against a swan.
A swan and a fox aren't even inhabiting in the same area. Foxes don't hang around lakes. They're out in the woods.
Well, there was a retention pond over on the apartment in the south side that sometimes I would see swans and sometimes I would see foxes. So, yes, they do sometimes co-inhabit in the same space. Never actually saw a swan eating a fox.
But, yeah, exactly.
But
because they don't. I'm going to look at
it was known to occur.
The diet of a swan, because I'm going
to
call
known
your
to
bluff
occur.
here. I think you're.
So that was a big bummer for the Pacers to lose out on that pick. But I think that's the avenue that they'll go down if they make a trade. And I'm not sold that they're going to make a trade, but I think what we've noticed during Kevin Pritchard's career, Jake, is that that's how he likes to do business.
He is very
That's
aggressive.
Usually where he's gotten the most value, too, going back to his days in Portland, is via trade. Pritchard, not necessarily known as a great drafter.
But he's
even when he has,
trader.
and even when he has drafted somebody useful, they've had a lot of bad luck, whether it be injuries or anything else.
Swans eat leaves, seeds, and roots of many types of pond weeds.
And meat.
Yeah, there's nothing on here about.
Yep.
They eat vegetation. They eat aquatic vegetation.
They are omnivores.
I don't think that's right.
They're omnivores. They'll eat both.
The main predators of swans are coyotes, bobcats, eagles, and foxes.
Yeah, a swan would dominate a fox. Fox would be very, very stupid to go after a swan.
Okay.
It'd be like you hitting me first. Like, you have to know what you're signing up for.
De'Aaron Fox was a player that Sacramento had taken a few years ago, right?
Yep.
Good player. But that's a prime example, Derek, of you get a guy and you feel like there's so few players that become like cornerstone players. And Indiana drafting at 6th is interesting to me because Sacramento's at 4. Sacramento theoretically has the last of the franchise pillar area picks. I think there are 4. And Chet Holmgren might be a wild card there, but I do think Jabari Smith and Paolo Banchero are going to be – those are
I think Ivy's
really
a wild
good
card.
And Ivy's a wild card. Now, what I think is going to happen in this draft, I think Sacramento knows that Ivy's a wild card. And I think they could dangle that 4 pick if somebody really covets Ivy. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sacramento trade their way out of that because they've got good young pieces, Sacramento. And try to load up and maybe get a veteran or something like that to let somebody slide into that 4th spot. But I truly think that Jaden, I have nothing to base this on, but there's always a player in the draft that when their name is called on the television broadcast, they're like, whoa, wait a minute, like that was a boulder in the stream of the way this draft was headed. I think that player is going to be Ivy. I think somebody, maybe Oak City at 2, somebody is going to take Ivy off the board in that front 3 picks, and it's going to throw chaos behind it.
Well, tell me if you agree with this. There seem to be 5 players in this draft that legitimately could be the best player in the draft. Obviously, the top 3, if they hit.
Talking about Smith,
Banchero,
Banchero,
Smith,
Holmgren.
and Holmgren. But I think the other 2 are Sharp and Ivy. That if their high-end expectation hits, they could be the best player in the draft. But wait, let me get
Shaden Sharp is a major wild card.
And I want to talk about Shaden Sharp, but let me get kind of to my point. it would be extremely surprising if Keegan Murray ends up being the best player in this draft.
Right.
If Johnny Davis, if Ben Mathurin, maybe less so Mathurin. Mathurin maybe has a little bit of a higher ceiling, but those type of guys. So that's why I think you could see teams want to get somebody like Ivy, because at least there's the chance there that he could be a superstar. Whereas when you get past that group, I don't think there's much of a chance. Keegan Murray might be a great player for 15 years. I think there's a nil chance that Keegan Murray is a superstar player in the NBA.
Keegan Murray strikes me as the kind of guy that becomes Eddie Johnson.
Sure.
Or Dale Ellis. A really fine 15.5 point per game scorer for 15 years. Good player.
Yeah.
TJ Warren. Good player. Johnny Davis. Johnny Davis feels like he could be Kevin Johnson. Good, solid player, right?
Oh, Kevin Johnson had his moments. I was going to say Danny Granger.
Danny Granger's a good Keegan Murray comparison to me. Nice player. Danny Granger actually is a really good comparison. Danny Granger, by the way, second highest single-season scoring average in Pacers NBA history.
But again, for Murray, that's like the pie-in-the-sky expectation,
it
Danny Granger. Like, that's the peak level probably. And no offense to Danny Granger. He's a really good player. But that's your peak example.
So, in other words, when you're talking about Shaden Sharp, let's get back to that. Daniels, to me, if you were to take the two players that are of the most intrigue that are going to be in that top 10 area are Dyson Daniels and Shaden Sharp. Now, we'll each dissect one of them. I'll take Daniels. So, Derek, your thoughts on Shaden Sharp. And I will counter once you say it.
The problem with Sharp is that you just don't have anything to go on because he didn't play basketball last year. You've got to go through his EYBL and high school tape to make any sort of determination. And if you put in Boncaro, if you put in Jaden Ivey, if you put in any of these guys' high school tape, of course they're dominating. It's high school basketball. They're dunking on people's heads and everything. It's hard to make an evaluation on somebody when you don't have them against high-level competition. And every single other prospect has played in the G League, high-level competition. The Big Ten, ACC, SEC, high-level competition. Overseas, high-level competition. High school's not. So you're really kind of taking a leap of faith, kind of similar to what you would in the old era when you had a prep to pros guy. But what I worry about is that, yes, you've been training at Kentucky and you've had the advantage of their staff and all of that. So it's not like you haven't picked up a basketball. But I'm a little bit worried about not testing yourself against high major competition.
So Shaden Sharp is a guy, for those that are unfamiliar, he is Canadian. When he was in high school, he was kind of a late bloomer. So all of a sudden, like midway through his sophomore year of high school, he starts to quickly move up through the rankings, the player rankings, as basketball kind of came to his body. And then he realized that there was a ceiling within his high school class of how high he could be ranked. But the class above him wasn't as deep. So he reclassified. I still have no idea exactly how this is done, but he skipped a grade. So he reclassified into the grade above him. Now all of a sudden he's considered a top 5 player. Well, he's a top 5 player that was a top 30 player in his legitimate grade. So as a top 5 player, he ends up with a scholarship to Kentucky. He goes to Kentucky and then says, you know what? I'm good. Thank you. I'm going to sit this year out and evaluate where I am. So he sits out, doesn't play. The intrigue for him is at an all-time high, but nobody really knows exactly who he is because it's a lot of prognostication and crystal ball analysis on who he is. So somebody with Shaden Sharp is going to draft him that has the flexibility or the cushion to take a flyer. And they may get a huge boom out of this. Or somebody's going to take him and end up losing their job over it.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to be Indiana.
I'd be pretty surprised if it was Indiana. But I think he's in that group of the next wave once you get past the top 4, with Ivy being the 4th. Mathurin, Sharp, Keegan Murray, those guys are all kind of in the same group. And then the next tier would be like Johnny Davis and some of those players. You know what I don't get, and maybe you followed Daniels a little bit more, I don't really understand, what does he do well?
I think Dyson Daniels, Australian player, international, came over, instead of coming from Australia into playing college basketball, instead opted to play in the G League. And I have not seen, am I watching G League basketball?
I
Not a
get
lot.
that.
However, my understanding is, and my understanding would certainly be vague at best probably, but a very good wing defender. I think Dyson Daniels is probably a slightly more skilled at getting to the basket and ball handling version of Solomon Hill. Really good wing defender, can hit if the shot is open, and can get himself to the lane, but a high-energy defender is his strong suit.
I guess I was just reading, like, the scouting reports of a lot of these guys, and I was going through what people were saying about them, and, like, somebody like Shaden Sharp, obviously the athleticism and potential's off the charts, right? Jaden Ivey, sort of the same thing, his explosiveness off the charts. Mathurin as a defender, right. Keegan Murray, what he can bring to the, Mathurin really is a 3-and-D
Dyson Daniels is a slightly more athletic Mathurin.
Yeah, Daniels, like, scouting report is like, okay, he's an okay athlete, not a great one. He's an okay shooter, not a great one. His ball handling is fine. And I'm like, well, why are we talking about him as a top 10 pick if his entire scouting report is this guy's pretty okay?
Do you think Indiana takes the 6th pick?
Yes.
Do you think Indiana has another pick in the first round?
Yes.
Do you think Malcolm Brogdon is a Pacer next season?
No. That's regardless of what happens on Thursday night.
Do you think Miles Turner is?
Gun to my head right now, yes.
I would agree with you.
Yeah. I think the most likely situation with Turner might be that they wait it out and see how he does with this group and then decide to make that trade at the deadline next year. Where he still has value.
We've said that about Turner like 9 times,
yeah,
right?
Well, that's true. Over the years, we sure did. I think the pick's going to be Mathurin.
He seems to be the safest.
They had his entire crew there to see him, and it just seems like he fits in with what the Pacers want. He's a mature kid. He looks the part to me as a person and as a player.
Will you call him Ben or Benedict?
I think he just goes by Ben, right?
But his name's Benedict.
Yeah. I feel bad, Jake.
I know what the play-by-play guy will call him.
Because the Pac-12 is a little bit of a blind spot for me. Because I watch so much, obviously, Big Ten basketball, Big East because of Butler.
Right.
ACC you're just inundated with because it's Duke, it's Carolina,
right.
and all of that. And I feel like I'm not staying up. I'm not 25 anymore. I'm not staying up until 1 a.m.
Are you like your dad with Yankee games?
Arizona play Oregon State on a Wednesday night.
What does your dad do? That. He falls asleep during Yankee games, right?
Yeah.
And then if there's a hit or something, what happens?
If I cheer, it wakes him up. Dad, you didn't see that. No, I was watching. What just happened? You were snoring, Dad. You did not see anything that just happened. Yeah,
Can you
do
blame
that all the
him?
time. No, I can't blame him.
Yeah.
But that would be like in the second inning, man.
Still, your dad got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to commute into New York.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, he was waking up pretty early to do all of that.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward, though, to kind of tie a bow on it and an ending thought. It's exciting, right, for the Pacers to have like an exciting draft position. I'm not saying it's all going to work out. It could just as easily fail, but I'm excited about this.
We have time, by the way, Derek, right now for our Sage Move of the Week. Maybe the Sage Move will be the Indiana Pacers selecting Dyson Daniels, Benedict Mathurin, Shaden Sharp, Jaden Ivey. Won't be there at 6. We shall see. But it's brought to you each and every week, our Sage Move of the Week, by WGU Indiana. WGU Indiana is Indiana's largest online accredited university. That means that you can actually, because it's online, you can take classes at your own schedule. Ambition never rests. And whether you are thinking about going back to school, starting school for the very first time, maybe getting a certification from work, WGU is the place for you. Again, Indiana's largest online accredited university. So they have all kinds of offerings for you there for a fabulous, highly sought after and highly thought of college degree. WGU.edu/Indiana is the website where Sage the Owl, the beautiful Sage the Owl, head on a swivel, never rest, because neither does your ambition.
Yuck.
Derek, our Sage Move of the Week is?
This is a move. I wish I had the tape from the show that we did to talk about this, because I don't remember. We might have actually been off when this happened by that time, but it was right around then. The Warriors trading for Andrew Wiggins. I think it was a kind of move like, remember they were coming off a last place season. You're like, oh, man, they're getting desperate now.
Yeah. Traded D'Angelo Russell.
It ended up really working out for them because I think you could say with authority, Jake, they don't win this NBA championship without Andrew Wiggins.
Yep.
So here's a guy that I think a lot of people, including me, kind of gave up on. A number 1 overall pick. And remember the Karl Anthony Towns brouhaha in Minnesota and all of that. And you're like, wait, does he work hard? Does he care?
Jimmy Butler, I think, also got on him.
Yeah. And here he is now getting to call himself an NBA champion. And if Draymond Green respects how you carry yourself, and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson do, and Steve Kerr does, I think that says a lot about the player that you've become.
And what do I always say about Alex Smith? It's the ultimate comparison I give.
If he wasn't the number one pick, you'd appreciate his career more.
Correct.
Yeah.
He was the number one overall pick in the draft, and so it's like, what's Andrew Wiggins done? Well, now you're starting to see he's a good player.
Yep.
He is a solid player. If the Pacers can get a guy at 6 that is doing what Andrew Wiggins is doing right now for Golden State, you'd be happy with it.
Yeah,
right?
If the Pacers could get Rick Smits, you'd be happy with that.
Well, he's like 50.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like, that type of a player.
Okay.
Because, can you name all the Pacers single-digit selections in history?
Yes.
You said that confidently. Hit me.
Okay.
There have been 6, I believe.
6. Okay. Stand by. Are we not counting Jonathan Bender, who Toronto technically drafted and they traded for him?
No, we're not counting Jonathan Bender because he was not technically drafted by the Pacers.
George McLeod.
Yep. Oh, so you're going backwards. Okay. Yeah, George McLeod, 89.
Chuck Person.
Yep.
Rick Smits.
Yep.
Clark Kellogg.
Yep.
Steve Stepanovich.
Mm-hmm.
Am I missing one?
Yep.
Okay, stand by. Hold on. I have one in mind that I'm thinking of. Oh, Wayman Tisdale.
Yep. Okay, no, you're missing another one.
Okay, so I'm missing one more.
Yeah, you got all the 80s ones out of the way. There was one in the 70s. This pick was panned because, in hindsight, Boston was smart enough to do something with their pick that the Pacers did not.
Okay. Rick Roby.
Yeah. 3rd overall in 78. Yeah, pretty good. Now, we had put that in the notes beforehand, so Jake had reviewed those before the show. So
what
I knew
notes?
that he had. I texted them to you. Or I emailed to your Hotmail account.
I don't use Hotmail, Derek.
Okay. So now you're going to say you
stuck in
just
the
got that all
90s?
off the top of your head?
What do you think? I mean,
I don't think anybody believes that.
I got the Hotmail account in 1990 when they drafted Dale Davis, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Or perhaps in 1993 when they drafted Malik Sealy. 94
rest
when they
in peace.
drafted Eric Piatkowski.
Oh, God. Scott Haskin was right after that, wasn't he?
He
wasn't it
he was-
Piatkowski
I
and
think
then Haskin?
Haskin was 93. Malik Sealy was 92. My apologies.
Okay, that's what it was. Okay. I knew they were back to
Or-
back
or-
because you're like, ugh.
Scott Haskin wouldn't. Who knows, right?
He didn't show much promise in the 1 year that he played. But
He wasn't a hero. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he wasn't a hero.
You want to get to our hero next?
Yeah, let's eat some sandwiches. Hoagies and Hops. Hoagie and Hero of the Week. And we will wrap up the NBA Finals and NBA season. Where do we group Steph Curry? I'm sorry. I wanted to avoid the legacy talk. How do you avoid the legacy talk? You
Okay,
can't.
it's
It's
a
the
good
NBA,
question.
right? It's Corey and Schultz, presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group. Stick around here on ISC Sports Network.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
Welcome back. It's Bailey & Wood presents Query and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network alongside Jake Query. I'm Derek Schultz. Thanks so much for joining us. We've got our Hoagies and Hops Hero and Hoagie of the Week coming to you in just a bit. I was actually at the shop yesterday, 42nd and Boulevard, and you can also order online hoagiesandhops.com because they were doing a fundraiser for our friends, the Indy Thunder Beat baseball team, who we also have a relationship here on the ISC Sports Network with, and my buddy Darnell was in there. And got to talking all things beat ball and all of that while the guys were slanging sandwiches in the back. But it was beautiful, gorgeous patio weather all weekend this weekend. So if you were down at Hoagies and Hops enjoying a chili water brew and a sandwich, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But all summer long, that patio will be open to you to grab a brew, to grab the best sandwich in Indianapolis, whether it be the Hog Island, whether it be the Philly Specials, what we're going to try coming up here in a matter of minutes. You could take care of that, of course, at Hoagies and Hops, 42nd and Boulevard. Before we get to our actual sandwich and start unwrapping those, we're going to talk NBA Finals, though. Game 7 would have been last night had there been a Game 7. Of course, there was not, as the Warriors ended up eliminating Boston on their home floor. And a little bit of a mea culpa here, Jake, because this doesn't really often happen. But if you watched last week's show, through the first 4 games, I became convinced that Boston was the better team.
I thought
Boston was going to win the series. Now, I didn't think that going in, but through the first 4 games, I thought that. And I couldn't have been more wrong. I think where Boston really lost this series was Game 4. That was the chance to step on their necks and get it done, and they were unable to do that thanks to a special performance by Steph Curry. But it was right there for the taking. This series was for Boston, and once they lost that game, that really, in hindsight, was all she wrote.
In terms of, for Steph Curry, this was his cementing in terms of, I think
agree.
there was discussion of, Curry won because he had Durant or, Klay Thompson and the Splash Brothers. This was Steph Curry saying, there's a championship there for me to win. Now, in terms of all-time great players, Derek, it's kind of a tired conversation, I realize. This is what I have always said. If you were to rank, there are 2 categories of how you classify great players. One is guys that do something so well that a team can ride them. The other is simply their basketball skill set is so uniquely diverse that they are in their own category. Mm-hmm. Now, the way I've always said it, if you are a coach, your team is in Game 7 of the finals, and I've said this to you before, just before the game is about to begin, someone comes in to you and says, Coach, I have bad news. One of your players just blew his knee out in warm-ups. And you get to pick one player from the history of basketball in their prime to airdrop in and play for them tonight. But they have to play exclusively and specifically that designed position. And I'm not going to tell you which position it is. In that scenario, who do you pick?
Ooh, well, I guess you have to take the big men out of it then, because you wouldn't want Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to be your point guard.
Correct.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Correct.
So we'd be talking more of the Magic, LeBron
it's one
category,
of those,
Bird.
It's probably one of those 3 guys, right?
Yeah.
So, and to me, it's LeBron is the answer because LeBron has won. He's played in and so did Magic. LeBron played in games in the finals where he had to play power forward. Mm-hmm. LeBron had games in the finals where he guarded the center, where he brought the ball up the floor. So, in terms of diversity and in all-encompassing multiple areas and ways they can affect the game, then LeBron and Magic are in their own category. Obviously, Jordan, it goes without saying. And then you take and say, okay, even though the game has gone away from centers, when center was the dominant or relevant position, who were the greatest ever to do that? And you would say, in no particular order, Russell, Abdul-Jabbar, and probably Olajuwon.
Well, Chamberlain.
Chamberlain.
Yeah.
But Chamberlain he didn't win a lot of titles, but his Chamberlain's skill set.
So dominant.
His skill set was unbelievable, right? So now you're already up to probably 8 players. Mm-hmm. I think Steph Curry is undeniably the greatest pure shooter probably to play the game. Now, I see a lot of people that say this, and it drives me nuts. Steph Curry changed the game. How did he change the game?
Well, they ushered in this era that the three-pointers really exploded around the very late 2000s.
Understood, but they were always there, though.
Yeah, but not to this extent. Curry doesn't get all of the credit for
Kevin
that.
Kevin Durant
gets
changed the game far more than Steph Curry did.
Well, I think if you want to point to somebody, the big man shooter, it was Dirk that changed things,
that's fair,
I think, first.
But little guys, shooting guards have been shooters since the beginning of the game. And smaller guys have been shooting guards since the beginning of the game. A 7-footer putting it on the floor and pulling up from three-point range was unheard of until...
I understand what you're saying, but if you would show somebody in 1995 shots that Steph Curry would take.
Understood, Derek.
He would have a brain aneurysm. You'd be like, this is a horrible shot. What is he doing? And he makes
I understand.
them.
What I'm saying is this. I think that Steph Curry took an area of the game to a level that maybe we hadn't seen before. But to say that he reinvented a position or the way that position was played, I don't know that I agree with that. He just took it to another level.
That's fine. I think what I would say Steph Curry changed is he changed shot making, because no one has ever in the history of the league, no one has ever made shots that he makes.
Did Marshall Faulk change the running back position? Let me ask you that. Did Marshall Faulk change football? He might have changed the running back position.
Yeah.
But did he change football?
No, I don't think he changed football.
Steph Curry didn't change basketball. He might have changed the shooting guard position or the areas in which they use them, but I don't know that it changed basketball.
To me, it's comparable to Peyton Manning in the sense that suddenly, like, guys were throwing 50 touchdown passes. And yes, you had Marino in '84 that did something close to that, right? But it was unheard of. It was an outlier. It didn't show change towards that like Manning did, and then everybody started doing it.
I do think that Steph still has another ring in him.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
wonderful player. No doubt. I mean, he's a
33,
top.
which makes you feel old.
He's a top 15 guy. To me, he is very clearly. You have Boardwalk and Park Place, and then you have like those green properties.
Yeah,
he's in those green.
Yeah, I agree. He's in that Duncan, Kobe, Bird. I know people want to put Kobe up with Jordan. Kobe's not on that tier to me.
I would agree.
Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Wilt. To me, that's one tier. Even Magic, I would throw up there. And then the next tier would be where Steph Curry
Here's
is.
a better way to say it before we get to Hoagie Tops, because I'm starving. Of the players that we just mentioned, Kobe Bryant, okay? Michael Jordan. Who else did we just mention there? LeBron. Of the teams that won titles for them, if each year of a title year you were to list their second best player, who played with the worst second best player on a championship team? I mean, who was Kobe?
Kobe's second best would have been peak Powell was good. Gasol.
Right.
Yeah. And you wouldn't say, I mean, Kobe was the second best player on the Lakers' first three teams.
Right.
Definitively.
Right.
And even if you want to make an argument about that, he was Shaq's peer. There was no way he was better than Shaq in those early years. So I think you could take kind of Kobe out of it. I think you could take Jordan out of it because of Pippen. Pippen's a top 50 all-time player.
Okay. LeBron?
I'm trying to think.
LeBron had
on the 16 team, like what, Tristan Thompson?
Well, Irving, right?
Oh, Kyrie. Yeah, Kyrie hit the. Okay, so yeah, Kyrie was really good on that team, and of course Dwayne Wade on his two Heat teams were great,
Right.
and then Anthony Davis was great. So I think you can take LeBron out of it too. Sorry, I was thinking back to like the Boobie Gibson, like I was thinking of all the LeBron finals teams.
Well, of the worst of the list of the worst, who was LeBron's worst running mate? He had.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably Kyrie, right? A young Kyrie?
Maybe Anthony Davis, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you could probably
I guess
argue over
Anthony
those
Davis,
two.
yeah.
You wouldn't say Wade.
I mean, the point being, Kobe always had really good players around him.
All these guys, though.
You're right.
Did. What bothers me about the Kobe discussion is that LeBron's won, like 5 MVPs?
You know.
How many did Wilt win? How many did Magic win? I just can't get past it. And people say, well, look, it's voted on, and Nash stole one from him. Okay, Kobe won 1 MVP. Once.
Who was
a one-time MVP.
Who was Akeem Olajuwon's second best player in '94?
Oh, God. Otis Thorpe?
Vernon Maxwell?
Yeah.
Mario Elie?
Because 95, he would have had Drexler.
He had Drexler.
But 94, it was him and a bunch of role players.
Vernon Maxwell,
Robert
Herrera,
Ory, Sam Cassell.
Vernon Maxwell.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was not a
Olajuwon to
team.
me, of the all-time great players, and this guy, Olajuwon's also probably in that just below category. But Akeem Olajuwon is the most overlooked and least talked about all-time great.
Yeah, if
of
you
the last 30
years.
years.
Switched Olajuwon and Ewing's jerseys, it'd be interesting to hear what the conversation would be. And Olajuwon was an NBA champion with the Knicks. Not that Houston's not a gigantic market, but
right.
what the conversation would be because they're one of the prominent franchises. I think it's a lot like Duncan and Kobe. Pound for pound, if you really look at it, Duncan has a more accomplished and accolade-ridden career than Kobe does. But he played in San Antonio, and he's boring as hell. No 8-year-old kid was like, I want to be Tim Duncan, whereas 8 million 8-year-old kids were like, I want to be Kobe. No offense to Duncan. He's a wonderful player.
I would love to get into our Hoagies and Hops Hero of the Week because I'm starving.
I individually wrapped your sandwich so it's not touched.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. What do we have here today?
We have here the Philly Special. And this is actually great because the Colts have a very heavy Philly feel, especially in their quarterback room. Matt Ryan,
oh my goodness,
from Exeter and played high school ball in Philly. Nick Foles with the Eagles and the Philly Special. That's where Christina came up with this sandwich. Zaire Franklin, Philly guy. Matt Conti, director of comms, PSU grad, PA native.
This is unbelievable.
So there's a lot of Philly in here. So this is what all this is. Sharp Prove, banana pep, onion, tomato, little spicy sauce, made in-house, and a little parm. Oh, yeah.
Watch your language.
Really good. Now, Christina has made me a Whiz fan. I used to not want Whiz on the cheesesteak.
So that's kind of a sweetness to it.
And this is provolone. But my cheesesteak preference, as much as I've become a convert to Whiz, is the straight Prov.
I mean, this is really good.
Yeah. I love that you can taste the spicy sauce, can't you?
Do you want to know my hero of the week, Derek? Mm-hmm. I'm pulling it up as we speak. Or as I speak, I should say. This does not have to do with today's world of sports. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. You can pick whoever you want. It's your show, or half your show.
Yeah.
We'll get that in post. We'll get that in post. 3, 2, 1.
Whose show is it?
It's half your show. Mm-hmm. I'm eating.
Over the weekend, I was at Crown Hill Cemetery because it was a spectacular day, and I decided to go to Crown Hill, which is a crown jewel of Indianapolis. And I met a guy named Bruce, super nice guy, who was one of the groundskeepers at Crown Hill, and we started chatting about notable people that are their final resting places at Crown Hill. And he said, well, what about John Woodruff? I said, I'm not familiar with John Woodruff. And he said, come here, I'll show you where there's a bench for him. So he took me over to a bench. Now, Derek, did you happen to see my story on Twitter?
No, I didn't see this.
So he takes me to this bench, and it says John Woodruff, and along with his wife, Rose L. King Woodruff. And he said, I don't know why he's buried in Indianapolis. He doesn't have any connection to here. There's got to be a reason why. And I said, well, let me research it. And what I found was a fascinating story of a hero. John Woodruff, Derek, was born in 1915 just outside of Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. He had 12 brothers and sisters, none of which graduated from high school. I can only imagine what it must have been like to be the son of a laborer outside of Pittsburgh as an African-American in the first part of the 20th century. But he started running for fun and eventually, of course, caught the eye of like a track coach that said, you should do this maybe for school. So he ran for his school and eventually on an AAU team that allowed him and facilitated for him to get a scholarship to the University of Pittsburgh. So he became the first member of his family to graduate from high school, then went on to college where he graduated with a sociology degree. But also during his running at the University of Pittsburgh, he became a member of the United States Olympic team where he went in 1936 to Berlin, one of 18 African Americans that stood and basically stared down Adolf Hitler in the famed 1936 Olympics that Jesse Owens participated in. John Woodruff participated in the 800-meter dash and won the gold medal. And won a gold medal in the 1936 Olympics. Came back from the Olympics and all in addition to winning the gold medal, and he was well aware of his accomplishment and he had given interviews about what it meant for him to be able to debunk Adolf Hitler's superior race theory. So he came back to the United States with a tree, a potted plant of an oak tree that he was given by the German government for winning in the Olympics. And he said that someday he wanted that tree to have a seedling that would be planted near his final resting place when his time would come to provide shade for those that were coming to visit him at his grave. He served not once but twice in the military after that when he came back. When he first came back, he was not allowed to run in the first race that he entered despite having a gold medal around his neck because at the U.S. Naval Academy, the meet that he entered was for whites only. Didn't stop him from enrolling or enlisting in the military during World War I, then again during the Korean War, so he enlisted twice. He then lived in New York City in a number of different areas, serving in different capacities with his master's degree from New York University when he met his wife, who had been the dean of girls at Shortridge High School in Indianapolis. So they selected Crown Hill Cemetery as their resting place.
Got it.
He died in 2007. The seedling of that oak tree that he had was indeed put into a potted plant to grow to the point where they could then put it next to his gravesite. But unfortunately, due to errors, not intentional, the small tree was lost, and so as a result, they placed a bench for him next to his resting place. So John Woodruff, who I had never heard of until Bruce pointed him out to me on Saturday, and then read about truly from an athletic, from a social, and just from a cultural standpoint, a true hero and my hero of the week.
Dumb question. Is he the namesake of Woodruff Place?
Not a dumb question at all. I looked that up. He is not.
Okay.
He has
I figured he's too
the Woodruff
old,
Place
too
neighborhood.
young,
There's
right?
also an artist, an African-American artist of the era named Woodruff. He is a relation to neither. He had no connection to Indianapolis other than the fact that his wife had previously lived here.
Gotcha. Okay. Because when you said John Woodruff, I immediately thought, oh, this must be the namesake of Woodruff Place.
This sandwich is unbelievable.
Well, now my hero is going to sound stupid. It's that British dude that won the U.S. Open. Congrats. What's his name? Fitzpatrick or something? Yeah, there he is. All right. Good for him.
This sandwich is
He had a ridiculous – I will give him this. Matt Fitzpatrick had a ridiculous shot on 18 out of the bunker, I believe, that really kind of clinched the championship for him as he was getting pressed. And it's always fun. You know, when you have a first-time major winner, that's always fun. But golf's in a place now, Jake, where you've got, I don't know, 30 guys every time that these majors happen that have like a legitimate shot of winning this thing. And
you got to hope
here he is.
They're all in the same series now.
Yeah, well.
This is my favorite sandwich we've had from them.
Yeah, more than the original cheesesteak with Wiz? You've just been on the cheesesteak train with them.
I mean, this is really good.
Yeah, it's excellent. I already wiped mine out during your story.
Did you bring more?
No.
So I'll have to go to...
We bring one to sample.
I'll have to go down.
You have to go back into Midtown when you get over to your
Nobody says
two-bedroom apartment where you live alone and go pick one up before you go home and eat it all alone on that mattress on the floor in that apartment.
Have you been there?
I don't want you to forget about the Hoagies and Hops catering menu, too. I wanted to make sure that I brought that up. You could choose any of their 3 hoagies, cut up to 24 people. You can also order individual brown bag meals that come with a hoagie, Hershey chips, and a cookie. They also have party trays with all their delicious sides. If you go to hoagiesandhops.com/catering, you can find that, or give them a call at the shop, 317-426-5731. So if you're, I don't know, throwing a party, 4th of July, anything like that, you want some catering, call up our friends Christina and everybody else, Kenny and the rest of the crew over there at Hoagies and Hops. We'll come back. Love that
amazing
play. Father's Day memories to talk about. We've got a lot to get to still here on Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
This is so good.
College wasn't built for me.
It didn't care if I had to work a double shift.
Or if my kid had a fever.
Deadline's a deadline.
I want to set the deadlines.
I want to take tests when I'm ready.
I want to take courses on my time.
And speed up when I know my stuff.
I want a university that cares about me.
Tests on your time, courses on your time, graduate on your time. WGU, the nonprofit university of you.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
There's our little buddy Walker, along with longtime Colts and potential future Hall of Famer
His
Jeff
birthday.
Saturday.
Just had a birthday, Jeff Saturday.
Really? How old now?
That's a good question.
42, I'll guess.
I'll go.
I'll guess that he was born in 80.
I'm going to say that he is 45.
Let me look. Oh, higher than that?
47.
Wow, is he that? I guess he came into the league at 25. I guess I didn't realize that. I was thinking more he came into the league at like 22.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Well, I think the story is that he was in camp with like Baltimore or somebody, and then he almost went back home to Atlanta to like work at a hardware store or something, or some like manual labor job, and the Colts called him, and he came back in, and the rest is history. I mean, incredible. What an incredible career that he had, and forever linked with one of the greats of the game.
Correct.
It's kind of like you with me. Like, you had a decent career before, and you had a cup of coffee. What'd you do, like IBC or something? You had one of those. You were on one of the TV stations. Was it Public Access? Whatever TV station you were on, too. And then you met me, and then now you and I are, like, intertwined together forever. Like Query and Schultz, Manning and Saturday. Kind of the same thing, where I'm obviously the more accomplished now. That's mean. I'm more famous and more beloved. And you're linked to that.
You really believe this, don't you?
This is factual. Like, this isn't really like a personal opinion sort of thing. It's true. So you're welcome.
We should run a survey on this program. Which
Oh,
of the
we've
two of
done
us
this.
is more likable and
We've
more
done this.
well-known?
You know what? You've lost every single one of these, including the who's hotter ones. You always lose. Because you have this feeling that like you're like more attractive to me than me. And you always end up losing those polls. We've done 3 or 4 of those, and one of them was a romp, like 72-38 or whatever. Wait, no, that's not right. I wasn't a math major at IU.
You know
72-28.
I remember this. One time you found remember that organization you found? The Indiana Enthusiasts of the Lollipop Guild? And you sent out, and then you sent surveys to all of them?
Okay, yeah, so, all right. It always goes back to this, like you have to
43 people.
You have to
like
tear
30...
me down, but you know who lifts me back up? The people.
Okay.
The listeners, the viewers of this show. Those are the ones that lift me back up.
By the way, it is time for our Love That Play, brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. Love-HVAC.com is the website. Just yesterday I was driving through Meridian Kessler, some of the older homes. That's Love Heating and Air is fabulous in working on some of the older homes in terms of setting up the HVAC. But I was behind 2 vans, and I thought, you know what? Somebody is about to be thrilled with the new air conditioning they're getting put in their house, because Love Heating and Air has been around for over 100 years in Central Indiana. How do you last that long? Very simple. You've got great product, 4 generations family deep, by the way. Great product, knowledge of that product, great prices, and, of course, a commitment to you, the customer. That's what you get with Love Heating and Air. 317-353-2141 is their telephone number. Love-HVAC.com. 317-353-2141. Or just think of it this way. When your air conditioning is faulty, when all of a sudden there's a problem with your furnace, and you say to yourself, I hate when this happens, just Google, but I love the answer. And love, if you remember love, you're going to find Love Heating and Air. Derek, our Love That Play for this week is?
This isn't a play, but I just thought it was cool, and sometimes sports has this happen where it's like almost emotional. Did you see the footage of the Atlanta-Chicago game where the Contreras brothers met at home plate?
Yep.
So Wilson, who's long time been with the Cubs, a couple of time All-Star, was on their 2016 championship team. His younger brother, William, recently came up, I think a year or 2 ago, with Atlanta, and they had never, I guess, played one another.
Right.
So Wilson's catching, and William comes up to bat, and they hugged each other, and it was just kind of a cool moment. It made me think as a parent, like my son will probably play pro sports. I had a vasectomy, though, so that I'm not going to get to experience that moment. But can you imagine, like, as a dad,
we don't know that,
being there and seeing
Have you
not
seen
only
that documentary
one, but
on
2 of your
Netflix?
kids? Oh, it's sick, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's gross.
Yeah.
Did you know anything about that? Like, that's like right in your wheelhouse, like in 1980s Indianapolis.
A lot of those. I didn't. I mean,
did you know any of those people?
I don't, but I know people who do. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I figured you knew people that did. I didn't know if you knew anybody directly who was, unfortunately, a progeny of that sicko. But no, getting back to the happy feelings of this story, I thought the Contreras brothers embracing at home plate, that's my Love That Play.
And perfect for Love That Play because Chris and John, brothers, right? 2 brothers that I grew up with.
Did not play pro sports, but yeah.
They played for the Red Sox, Allisonville Little League. Don't sell it short.
Okay.
Sponsored by Love Heating and Air, by the way.
I'm sure it was like the best Little League. Right?
Sean Malone was a good pitcher.
Didn't you have like an undefeated Pee Wee football team in
Thank
like
you for
third
asking,
grade or
Derek.
something?
Thank you for asking. I was a member of the 1985-86 Beastwood, that's Eastwood with a B, undefeated football teams. We had an unblemished record. We did have 2 ties. Both years we tied Noblesville.
Did your coach tell you at the end of the season, take a look at that plaque there, boys? They don't get any better than this. You remember this the rest of your life.
He said, and I quote, when we were practicing one day and everybody was getting kind of groggy, and he said, you are right on the doorstep of being able to make Eastwood history, and we're going to make a plaque. We're going to put everybody's name on that plaque. He did one of these. He did that. We're going to put everybody's name on that plaque, and someday you're going to bring your wife by, and you're going to show them what you accomplished.
Gosh, yeah.
Now, I will say the plaque was still there, but they misspelled my last name.
2 R's?
2 R's.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was a tennis player that had 2 R's, right? Sam Querrey?
He was
I believe.
Querrey.
Okay, all right. I knew it was it was the same pronunciation.
Correct.
But I knew it was the same. So
Do you want to go by and I'll show you the plaque?
There is actually, this is a weird thing, and I stumbled upon this. There is a Kevin Querrey who lives in Indianapolis.
Really?
Yeah. Like your radio show, Kevin and Querry. We need to find out if there's a Derek Querry out there. There's a Jake Schultz.
Is there really?
Yep.
Do you think the Jake Schultz is more proud of the Jake or the Schultz?
Probably the Schultz, I would think. Jake's kind of a whatever name. There was a Derek Schultz that was living in Indianapolis that is my exact same age that his Facebook avatar forever was him funneling beers.
Uh-huh.
And if you search Derek Schultz, not that I ever did this, but if you search Derek Schultz, his profile was the first thing to come up. So people would be like, oh, that's a Derek Schultz in Indianapolis. And it's some dude like, what do you guys call it out here? Bonging beers. We called it funneling.
Do you Google yourself?
No, never.
Do you search your own name on Twitter?
No. Sometimes. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I do.
I don't think that's unprecedented amongst
what
radio
I don't
people in
do,
Indianapolis.
I don't retweet myself.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't retweet myself.
It's kind of sad when you see somebody that retweets themselves and yet it still has no interactions.
Oh, and it's like the only one. Yeah, there was actually an example last week with one of the most brain dead takes I've ever seen before on anything. But you try not to respond to things that
don't feed the trolls, Derek.
Yeah, that they're only put out there to garner a response. You don't want to respond.
You ready
to
for
that.
some quick hits next?
Let's do it. Oh, we still got to talk lose too. We'll do that too. It's Querry and Schultz here on ISC Sports. Don't put that in your mouth.
That pizza we had was so good.
What are you doing?
Lou Malnati's pizza was so good. It makes me want to eat
these
the
are not
tomato
edible.
here.
Don't chew on these.
Sure they are.
Are we going to the break?
Yes.
All right, bye. We'll be back.
College wasn't built for me.
I didn't care if I had to work a double shift.
Or if my kid had a fever.
Deadline's a deadline.
I want to set the deadlines.
I want to take tests when I'm ready.
I want to take courses on my time.
And speed up when I know my stuff.
I want a university that cares about me.
Tests on your time, courses on your time, graduate on your time. WGU, the nonprofit university of you.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Welcome back to Querry and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network, coming to you from inside the Lou Malnati's studio, which, again, if you have not had Lou Malnati's, we were able to eat it last week, and it was fantastic. The tomatoes, I think, is what makes it great. I mean, you take one bite and the
Oh, yeah, the sauce. I mean, there's so much of it. The buttery crust,
unbelievable.
the cheese. You could pick whatever you want out of it. But I'm kind of like you. I used to think it was the crust, but now I think having been able to house all these Lou Mal's pies over the last couple of months, now that they're here in
honestly, it's something different every
I think
time,
it's the
right?
sauce.
You know, here's another thing about Lou Malnati's that I love. Not just that it is, of course, a Chicago institution whenever you'd go to the Windy City, and now you can have it right here in Indianapolis, and we'll have Derek mention to you the number of places you can get it here in central Indiana. But I love a place that not only has, and it's family values, because Lou Malnati's is a family-owned business and carries that family values, but I love a place that also has a cause that they believe in and they stand behind, like helping out animals. I'm a huge animal guy. I love that Lou Malnati's is dog-friendly. You can bring your dog out there, have them sit on the porch. But they've done fundraisers for different areas and trying to get animals adopted,
humane,
giving out for our four-legged friends, and I love that because I think that anytime you can oftentimes see what a business or a person, what's truly in their heart by the way they treat animals. And Lou Malnati's has been wonderful towards helping out those and immediately making itself part of the community here, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, like their pizza run. It's not a dogs or animals charity, but Gleaner's Food Bank, which is really important.
Another great one.
So many
to help
people
out the less fortunate,
having to deal with hunger right here in our backyard in our city. But PizzaRunIndy.com for details on that. We mentioned on last week's show, Sunday, July 31st is when the pizza run is happening.
And the
are
pizza
we going to do that? You and
me? You told me you don't run.
You want to compete?
You'll do it for that, right? Huh?
I don't run, but I think I could beat you.
Okay.
Well, aren't you on beta blockers now?
I am. It's terrible. I hate it.
You look exactly the same.
Do I really?
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
You think you're heavier?
Yes.
I
weigh myself. I can see it.
Okay.
You should see me.
I think you're just no. First off, pass, and secondly, I think you're a hypochondriac about every time that you're sick. You think it's like the biggest deal in the world. Do I need to go to the hospital? And I've never met somebody as obsessed with like normal fluctuations in weight gain as you are. And don't use your heart as an excuse because you were like that way before you almost croaked.
Okay.
You've always been like that.
Deep down, Derek, you'll never admit it, but deep down, I think that my heart attack put a scare in you.
You know what? All kidding aside, I mean, we're best friends. So I did think about that. But once it became clear that you were going to be fine, I thought this is great for the show. Like that's, that's the first thing that I thought.
Yeah, thanks.
Before I thought about anything else. Like, this is great content. You can't beat this. I mean, he almost died.
Unique or organic.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay. It is time for, you want to hand me the Stewart Tire
Yeah,
hat?
sure. You going to rock that?
Yeah.
Quick hits. Our buddy Darren King, Stewart Tire
Darren's
and
the
Auto,
best.
at Stewart Tire
This guy's
on
a whiz
Facebook.
with cars, Derek. I'm telling you, like I had one issue with my car and called him, and within 20 minutes, here's exactly what it is. Unbelievable.
He's in Universal this week taking pictures, and he's still got the Barney Commit Tax Fraud shirt on. So it's my favorite T-shirt ever made. Stop 13 Road, the very, very south side of Indianapolis, right on the county line, essentially, is where you're going to find our friends at Stewart Tire and Auto. Oil changes to anything that you need under the hood, and tires. Duh, obviously. Both of us have got new sets of tires from Darren over the past couple of years.
Best.
Stewart Tire and Auto. Head down there today. Honest work, honest price. They're going to take care of you just like they take care of both Jake and me. Quick hit number one. I saw this from Nate Atkins of the Indy Star, and we're in the dead period, right? So you're kind of throwing stuff out there just because you need something to talk about. I don't think it's very likely, but if you and Kevin talked at all about a potential trade for Indianapolis native Terry McLaurin?
You know, briefly mentioned it. It's interesting. The wide receiver, the former Indiana Mr. Football out of Cathedral, who played at Ohio State and is now with Washington, and there's so much turmoil seemingly with Washington in general, you'd think you'd want out. Whether or not the Colts have the capital or the interest, I don't know, but he's obviously a great player.
I don't necessarily think that he wants out, like he's unhappy with Washington. I think he just wants to get taken care of.
Right.
I think he would happily stay there, I think. But you wonder, and hindsight 2020 and all of that, that was the same draft that Paris Campbell went, and you wonder if the picks were changed. But the reason why I think the Colts would be out on this is that you've had Devontae Adams, you've had Tyreek Hill, you've had Hollywood Brown all switch teams. And not only did all of those guys switch teams for extensive trade packages, like first and second round picks, multiple, but all of them got huge extensions, like $25 million a season. And with what's due coming up here, Pittman needing an extension, etc., I don't think the Colts are going to jump into that sandbox.
Right.
And as good as Terry is, I don't know that he's like dynamic enough to be, hey, that's my $25 million a year receiver.
Is he a deep ball threat, or is he more of a possession guy? Is he Marvin Harrison peak or Reggie Wayne?
I think Reggie Wayne probably would be more of a
which is
comp.
which is really good, right?
Yeah, which is great. And if he ended up being that, then I guess he'd be worth the $25 million. I just meant like as productive and good as he's been, I don't know if he's the type like Randy Moss where you're like, oh my God, keeping you up at night when you're game planning for him type player. Quick hit number two, that golf deal is trying to get into the official world golf rankings points. So Greg Norman, who's heading that whole thing, said the new circuit's going to apply for the OWGR points consideration. They claim that they have a very compelling application after working closely with that committee. And I guess during an interview on Saturday night, Norman also asked whether the PGA Tour commissioner would recuse himself from voting on it because obviously there'd be a little bit of a conflict of interest because they're technically competitors. But
let me give you a couple names that are rumored to be heading over, Derek.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm sure you've been on top of this because Kevin's a big golf dude, so I'm sure you've talked more live than I've paid attention to.
He is a big golf guy, is correct. The following names. Xander, how do you say his last name?
The Schauffele?
Yeah.
The guy that finishes like runner-up or third in every major, it seems like.
Brooks Koepka.
Okay.
Abraham Answer.
Okay. Tell me this. Has Koepka been – remember he had that streak there where he was crazy.
Correct.
Has he fallen off or is he still in the mix? I just don't pay enough attention to golf to know.
Yeah, I'm not
I don't
sure.
keep up with the day-to-day stuff.
He's ranked 19th in the world.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So 3 guys in the top 20 are rumored to be heading over now.
I'm torn on this, Jake, and I'm not trying to turn this into like a whole discussion on this sports washing thing, but you know how many team owners are deplorable people who have done deplorable things?
That's
like
fair.
Donald Sterling. If you played for the Clippers, you cashed a check from a awful
Daniel Snyder.
Marge Schott. If you played for the Reds, you cashed a check from an awful like Nazi sympathizer level person, like a horrible racist, awful human being.
Fair.
And can we really police? Look, I'm not trying to condone what they're doing or where this money is coming from, but can we really police all of where this money comes from in sports? Because whenever you've got billions of dollars around, guess what? Not so nice people are going to be in there.
I mean, I get what you're saying, and I want to make clear here, that is not to say that we're comparing the statements or perceptions of league owners to some of the things the Saudi government has been involved in. But I understand the point.
Yeah. I'm just saying deplorable behavior and beliefs are deplorable
it's a fair
regardless of where they kind of come from.
Correct.
Quick hit number 3. This is a really cool story. Lorenzo Kane, probably done in Major League Baseball. He was DFA'd by the Brewers on the exact day that he reached 10 years of service, so he gets the full pension.
Did he get a watch?
But well, he gets like, I think he gets like $8K a week or something for the rest of his life or whatever that pension is. Broke in with the Brewers in 2010, but spent the next 7 seasons. He's known as more of a Royal. Went to a couple of All-Star games, won a World Series with them, had some moments during those World Series, both as a participant and then the year that they actually won it. Made $80 million over the course of his career. Pretty good for Lorenzo Kane.
Right.
He told a story about him showing up to a tryout with basketball shorts and basketball shoes on and no glove because he couldn't afford any of that. And then, you know, to have a 10-year career where you make
$80 million?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It is.
All things considered. And make a couple All-Star games and win a chip.
Win a what?
That's pretty good. Win a chip.
It's a title.
Yeah, he won a chip.
At least you didn't say a natty.
No, that sounds stupid. Yeah, I would never
so
say
does
that.
chip.
No, chip's actually what it's called now. Like Steph's got 4 chips.
Ship.
Yeah.
If anything, it's a ship.
Ship?
But
like
just
a boat?
Just a title or a ring?
Like a chip.
Ring.
You got a chip. Yeah.
Okay.
Ring's fine. Ring's fine, too. I don't mind ring. Okay. We'll come back, Biter Bull Bleep, wrap up the show for the week. It is Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. This has been a good show, I feel like, so far. Kind of stayed on track.
Chip talk.
Pretty good.
It's kind of ridiculous.
College wasn't built for me.
I didn't care if I had to work a double shift.
Or if my kid had a fever.
Deadline's a deadline.
I want to set the deadlines.
I want to take tests when I'm ready.
I want to take courses on my time.
And speed up when I know my stuff.
I want a university that cares about me.
Tests on your time, courses on your time, graduate on your time. WGU, the nonprofit university of you.
Welcome back. Bailey and Wood presents Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network, for a final time today. I'm Derek Schultz, episode 91. Thanks so much for joining us. Whether you're watching
91, baby. Hail our Panthers.
On ISC Sports Network, maybe you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, starting to build the audience a little bit on Twitch. Maybe you're just listening on podcasts, so you can't see us right now. Thanks so much for tuning in for all of it. 91, by the way, I chose Ron Artest. I could have chose Dennis Rodman, I guess.
Yeah.
I did not choose
Derek,
North Central High School class of 91.
It's the best class.
That was not what I chose.
If you knew how tight we were.
I do think that's kind of cool. This is kind of unrelated to North Central, but we have a neighbor across the street from us. Great guy. His name's Michael. He had three grown daughters and 6 grandchildren. And one of the grandkids had their birthday, and they had this huge bouncy castle outside. Mm-hmm. So his son-in-law, who I know because he does some college basketball stuff, Jordan, messaged me and said, hey, James can come over and play in the bouncy castle. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. So we went over there on Saturday with James, thinking that we were going to spend like half an hour over there and then walk back across the street. But it's literally us and his entire family and like extended family. So all the husbands of the daughters and the cousins and everybody's over there. And they're telling stories, like going back and forth, and they're ragging on each other. And it was just kind of a lot of fun to be like in somebody else's family party at their table.
So you crashed their party and stayed the whole time. That's cool.
They invited us.
Okay.
I felt a little bad being there.
How long were you there?
But I laughed at the stories the whole time. We were there for like 3 hours, I feel like. Yeah. Yeah.
Warrior, did you go in the bouncy house?
I did. Yeah.
How was that?
It was great. Being my size, and as people know, like my muscular stature is above average. My height is slightly below average.
Did it take you back to your backyard wrestling
and
days?
weight is slightly below average. So I'm able to fit on a lot of children's playground equipment or like bouncy castles, things like that. So even as a near 40-year-old man, I can still play in those things and not have to worry about breaking them. Or people being like, oh my God, what's going on there? Who's that guy? Even though a couple times they've said that. The Canal Playscape downtown, which I play on sometimes. They're like, what are you doing? You're 40. Get down. But my son likes it when I climb on all the things with him. But the problem is he knows I can fit into all the slides, so then I have to get in the slides, and sometimes they're like sticky because, kids, they're gross, so I get sticky. I don't know. You don't know, Jay, because you're not a father, right?
Okay.
So,
speaking of that, Father's Day was good?
Yeah, it was good.
Okay.
Had donuts in the morning and coffee. The weather was just spectacular this entire weekend.
Perfect.
Put together a patio umbrella.
Well, that sounds like a perfect Father's Day.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
It was my dad's birthday also.
Oh, wow.
So happy birthday to my dad and Father's Day.
82?
1.
Wow.
Yep.
And still going strong, huh?
Doing well,
yeah, healthy as a horse.
Yep.
Good for Mr. Query.
That's right.
Called him Lloyd one time, never made that mistake again. Ever since then.
Yeah, he doesn't go for that.
Buy It or Bold Bleep is brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchens, chateaukitchens.com, at Chateau Kitchens on Facebook and Instagram, before and after pictures. They are doing a lot of projects around town. New builds.
All at Derek's house.
But also a lot of home reno stuff, anything on the inside of your house that they can do, but they specialize in kitchens.
Fabulous work.
And bathrooms. They've done our kitchen. They've done our guest bathroom. They do great work, and they're going to do great work for you as well. Steven and his team are amazing. Megan's coming back to the house to look at the basement next week.
Somebody pointed out to us, Derek, this was fascinating to me, and I can't remember who it was, so I apologize, but thank you for pointing it out. The toilet in the basement, that began in Pittsburgh primarily. And the reason it began in Pittsburgh is because Pittsburgh is so hilly that a lot of people had their plumbing would be, the house would be kind of uphill, and so they wanted to have some plumbing in the basement for when the guys would come home from the steel mills and be dirty, a place where they could immediately, get cleaned up. And then since they already had the showers and whatever there, they would have one commode in the basement so that in the event that there was any sort of a backup with the piping, because it would all run kind of downhill there, it was a safer place for the use of
So
the
that
toilet.
was the explanation for the random toilet in my basement.
Correct.
I don't think we're going to have Chateau do anything with that.
You're just going to leave it as a
I think we're going to plug it.
decoration?
Well, no, they took it out already. I think we're just going to leave it plugged because the problem is that he said the piping to get to the tank might be actually uphill, so you need something to push the poo from the bottom to uphill into the sewage tank, or else it'll just sit there. So you need some sort of like I guess they make a machine that takes because you do your business, whatever, number 2, in the basement toilet, but then the pipes run like this, so you have to have some sort of a machine take it. And it's not that heavy, right? I mean, even if there was a lot of waste, it's not that heavy to push that up with liquid. You just need something to push all of that waste up into the sewage portion.
We almost made it. Like an hour and 10. My dad tells me too much potty talk. And we made it an hour and 10 minutes. And
well, this is, this is a mature show. We're just two guys talking dad stuff, talking guy stuff, house stuff, whatever. Chateau's used to this.
Plumbing, sewage. That's all you need to say. Sewer line. That's it.
I said waste. Like, what else,
Okay.
You need to push
Biter
that
Bull
out.
Schultz, you ready?
You need to get it away. Statement 1, the Warriors, you actually already answered this question early in the show, will win at least one more chip with this core. Biter Bull Bleep.
Well, no, because it'd be a title. But, yes, they will win that. I'll buy it.
Gun to my head, I'll say yes. I would put the over-under at 0.5. I think if they have any more in them, I think they have one in them. So I'll say over, but I don't say that super confidently because, Jake, it took kind of it took a lot for them to win this one. I mean, I think pound for pound,
it did. You can
tell
Boston
was playing their best. I think there was a chance that they were going to lose that series, and Boston just didn't come close to playing their best in the final 3 games.
You could kind of tell that he was Steph Curry, like, relieved and kind of like exhausted by it. You know what I mean?
I think you put it right. It's his crowning achievement. It's Jordan in 96 coming back and winning another one. It's Kobe in 09 post Shaq after the years with like Smush Parker, remember that? And winning one without Shaquille O'Neal as the best player on the team. It's LeBron coming back to Cleveland and beating the Warriors. Like, it's that level of, I don't think Steph Curry needed validation, but it is his crowning validation and achievement, that title.
By the way, I was looking it up there. Indy Matt, thank you, at Indy Matt 1, who listens to this program and sent the info about the toilet in your basement.
Oh,
Indy
cool.
Matt 1.
Yeah.
So thank you for reaching out and clarifying the Pittsburgh toilet.
Yeah, because if there was a problem with the poo from upstairs, you wanted to make sure downstairs at least you had somewhere where you could go poo. That makes sense. So thank you, Indy Matt, for that. Statement 2, Shaden Sharp will be the biggest bust of the lottery. Bite or Bull Bleep?
I'm going to say, just based on statistical probability, Bull Schultz. Not saying he's not going to be a bust.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're always, Derek, somebody will take some player from overseas that nobody's ever heard of, and it's like, and it'll never pan out.
Yeah, but I think if Johnny Davis stinks and is out of the league in 5 years, you'll say to yourself afterwards, yeah, but how good did we think Johnny Davis was going to be?
Right.
Whereas Shaden Sharp is, there are people that are in that camp that think he's going to be like this huge star.
Right.
So
he could be LaMelo Ball. I thought LaMelo Ball was going to be a bust, so what do I know?
I guess I'll say yes just because he has the most hype and the most failability, if that's a word. Because, like, Jaden Ivey, to me, could be a star. I don't.
Oh, who's calling you there, Derek?
What's my timer off for? Oh, I actually timed it out for this last segment. I wanted to make sure
we got a wrap.
over. Yep. So, yes. So,
nice
what
job.
did I do? Did I buy that one? Yeah, I bought it. All right, statement 3. There we go. Cool. Don't wish random men happy Father's Day. Bite or Bull Bleep? Does that happen to you?
Yeah.
Do you get upset if somebody's like, hey, happy Father's Day?
No, but I will say this. I don't. Nobody's ever said it to me. I'll say this, though. Don't say happy Memorial Day.
Oh, yeah, you don't like that. Definitely don't say happy Mother's Day to people because that could be a real sore spot for sure. No, I'm not saying that from experience. I'm just saying that you might not want to do that. But I had a couple of people wish me happy Father's Day without my kid this weekend, and I'm like, do you really? I mean, I think you could look at this and know that I procreated, but do you really know without seeing the actual?
I think it's kind of weird.
Like, clearly I do well.
I think it's kind of weird to offer.
But do I have offspring?
I think it's weird when people are like, tell your dad happy Father's Day. Like, that's for me to say. He's a father because of me.
Okay, well, you get weirded out about stuff like that.
I do.
Thanks to all of our sponsors, Chateau Kitchens, Lou Malnati's Pizzeria, the title sponsor of the studio, Hoagies and Hops, Bailey and Wood Financial Group, the title sponsor of the show,
Stuart
Love
Tire,
Heating and Cooling,
WGU Indiana.
All of them. For Sean Walker filling in again, and Greg Rakestraw, who's supposed to be on vacation, I'm Derek Schultz. That's Jake Query. We will see you next time here on Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Throw it up for Tillman. Whoa. My goodness.
122.60 for Penn.
What a swim.
Six of them.